my partner at the time, she was like, be careful. Like, I don't have a good feeling about today, be careful.
Sam Tait became a paraplegic after a horror motorcycle crash 6 years ago. The 28-year-old competed at last year's Winter Paralympics, and he's made it his life's mission to win gold at the next.
I just broke down and I was like, why me? And he was crying as well, and no one's going to put you in a situation that you're not going to be able to get through, or you're not strong enough to get through. And not like hearing that from him, saying that like you're stronger than what you think you are. And I think we all have that inner strength that we really don't know is there until we're put in a really tough situation, that the only way to get out is fight and really find that fire in you.
Sam Tait, thank you so much for being here, brother.
No worries, mate.
It's been a pleasure to chat over a coffee, have a little yarn and get to know each other a little bit. I've had the pleasure of bouncing back and forth over message with you the last sort of couple of weeks in the lead up to this, and I've been able to hear your story on a few other pods, and I'm so interested to dive into it today because for me this is, this world of Paralympics, speaking to Paralympians, speaking to people who, well, that for me is very different. I haven't had anyone on the show who's within the Australian Paralympic team. Mm-hmm. But I love, and a consistent theme of the podcast is speaking to people who are, faced by adversity, who have genuine challenges in their life that they have to come through the other side of, and, refining that purpose, redefining who they are and finding what the next steps in life look like, and really keen to dive into that with you today. So I guess we'll address what your injuries are, the challenges you've faced. Talk to us about exactly what happened post-accident, and then we'll go into your accident a bit more.
Yeah. So we're coming up to 10 years now. 27th of April 2013 was my accident. I've never actually celebrated that day. I think I've never really phased about it. I've always wanted to maybe think that day as like a rebirth or like a new life start. But look, to say it hasn't been a hard 10 years, obviously that's not the truth, and it's be a lie, but like I live a really good life now, and I guess having my accident has really taught me, like as we spoke about, just to kind of live every day the best you can and find purpose in what you want to do in life and kind of live that to the fullest, because I'm not one who can kind of like sit there and just kind of coast along in life. I want to have those really high ups and find an adrenaline that's going to make you feel so good, and conquer like those lows and get through those days where you feel like crap and you don't want to do anything. You just get outside and go for a ride or a swim or anything, and then you get back and you're like, oh yeah, I feel much better. It's like fitness to me is also it's changed my life in probably more recovery than anything else, and it's really got me kind of to where I am now. And like being an athlete, it's part of what we do, but once I stop professionally skiing, I'm definitely going to keep training, because just mentally it's like freeing, and it's just kind of defines who you are, and I love it.
I couldn't agree with you more there. It's, training's a huge part of my life. We spoke about that just before off camera. So your injury was, paralysed from the waist down. Is that correct?
Yeah, so T10 complete paraplegic, so I think it's about just above belly button.
Yep.
So spinal cord completely severed and no movement from the waist down.
And so it sounds like prior to the accident, as well as now post, you're quite an adrenaline junkie. You said, now you live for those highs that come through extreme sport, and I would consider your sport extreme sport because of the pace that you guys move at.
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying to me, and I'm not even in it. But you were on a motorbike when you had your accident.
Yeah.
Talk me through that day, and give us a bit of context. Who were you before the accident?
Yeah, so I was 22 at the time. That was one of the funnest days I've had on a bike. I only had my L's for would have been maybe 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
And I was only kind of just figuring out how to ride, like lean into corners and becoming a little bit more confident in riding. And I don't think I wasn't pushing it that day to the point where, oh, you're being stupid, you're going to have a crash. But I was 22 and I felt invincible, as I guess most males do in their 20s and 30s. And my partner at the time, she was like, be careful. Like, I don't have a good feeling about today, be careful. And I was like, nah, I'll be all right. I've got 4 mates. It's a beautiful day. We're just going to go riding all day. And I'll see you later at the pub or something. And then it was about 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, and she got a call from my brother, and she instantly knew something was wrong. That I had, I don't know, hurt myself, had an accident. And then I blacked out for about 3 days.
Yeah, wow. Is that immediately as the accident happened? Like, can you remember the moments before?
I remember probably 5 minutes before. I don't remember like leading up to it. I don't remember the crash, or I remember flying in the helicopter over the harbour bridge. Yeah. And laughing with the doctors or the emergency guys in heli, saying, "Oh, first time over the harbour bridge, great, it's cool to see." Being in an MRI machine for an hour and a half and in the most pain I've ever felt, just with that morphine button, just pressing it. That felt like a lifetime. And then laughing with the spinal surgeon who came in, I don't know, probably 7 hours after that, and then don't really remember anything for the next 3 days, and then finally came to in the ICU, and just my family were around me, and just kind of, I don't like really, no one's ever said like at the early days, or you've broken your back, this is what happened. It kind of like, I kind of just knew. I don't really know. Yeah. I just subconsciously, I was like, oh yeah, I had this. I don't really know what happened, but I didn't think, I was like, I'm going to be back at work in a week. This is nothing that they don't really know what they're talking about. And then week, months, years later, and here we are. And it, like in hospital, I remember really like just melting down once with my dad, and I was like, why did this happen to me? Like, I felt like my life was only just really picking up, and like I had a job that I loved and everything felt really content, and then this life-changing event happened, and I think I would be on this path no matter what, whether it's a skiing accident, motor vehicle accident, motorbike, probably, I guess. I don't know. I feel comfortable in this life. Like, it hasn't been easy, but I feel like I would have been somehow on this same journey no matter what happened on the 27th of April, whether it was a day before, a day after, a week after, a year after. I feel like I'm meant to be where I am now, and it's, yeah, I've learned a lot.
That's, mate, so much to unpack there. I find that really curious, that comment that you feel you would have been here eventually anyways in this situation. Is that you speaking from the daredevil mindset that was obviously a part of who you were, or is that you know, is that a tip of the hat to destiny, potentially, that, you know, maybe that's the way you look at life, that, you know, inevitably it's written and you're on the path and you just got to make the most of it? Like, where does that come from?
Look, I've tried to unpack that so many times. I don't know. I just feel so like content and right where I am now in my life. And back before my accident, I didn't have anything that kind of gave me that joy, or like I had riding, but that was starting to fulfill that void. But everything else in life, I was just kind of coasting through, maybe. Yeah, I don't know how to explain or where that comes from. I just like, it just feels normal to be where I am. Like, yeah, I don't really
I get a sense of what you're saying, and there's something that stands out to me. I've heard a conversation along the lines of that feeling of being content, that feeling of knowing you're where you need to be,
Yeah.
is a product of purpose and meaning as opposed to
Yeah.
pursuit of
100%.
happiness?
Yeah.
And do you think it's that this incredible challenge that I can't even imagine, having to face is what has given you so much meaning through the ability to inspire others, through the ability to achieve what so many would consider to be impossible? Do you think that's what gives you real meaning in life?
Yeah, I think I don't get up out of bed and think I'm going to inspire people today, because I'm just kind of living the life I want to live, and I get to ski and travel the world and really live an amazing life. But having that purpose and that meaning to, like, in skiing and find that in something I love, it's like, it's just really like genuine, and like, that you belong there because it just hits deep in your core, and it's like, this is kind of what I've been missing, and it just needs to be in my life.
I think that speaks to, often, and I'm all for questioning, because I ask myself deep questions about life all the time.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes that you don't find answers to the questions you're asking, but you find feelings.
Yeah.
And if you feel so
I
deeply
like that.
as though you're doing something right,
Yeah.
as though something is meant to be, sometimes you don't have to keep asking questions, right? You just lean in.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's, I often think about that in this realm, like telling stories is something I've always loved. Like, I remember being a young kid, writing books that I wanted to, share a story from. I remember sitting down and always being more interested in talking to the grown-ups and talking to the kids, because they have an ability to tell stories at a deeper level.
Yeah.
I was always connected to this idea and this passion for story. And I don't know where that comes from, because if you hand my mum, dad or sister a mic, they don't want to get up and stand on stage.
Yeah, right.
Like, there's no real signs as to where this has come from. They're all storytellers in their own sense inside of the home and inside the friend groups and with their partners.
Yeah.
They're very funny people. They're very good at connecting and sharing story. But the route that I've taken is so different. And I think, where does that come from, and where have I seen that? I just think it's within me.
Yeah.
Like, and you can ask so many questions about it. It's just who I am.
Yeah.
Lean into it.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I love what you're saying. And, I'll go back to another moment there that you shared in that early stages of your accident. You spoke about flying over the harbour bridge in the helicopter and, laughing about the fact that this is the first time you've flown over the harbour bridge. I'm curious about that, because I know that for so many people, humour is, it can be a crutch. It can be something to lean on at a difficult time. It can be a way just to enhance the quality of a moment. For you, do you think in that moment humour kept you a little bit sane in the unknown? Or were you genuinely just so unfazed about what was happening, maybe not fully putting together the pieces of what potentially could be quite severe?
Yeah, I've never actually thought about it that way. That's a great question. I think, like, I've always been the more positive side of life, and like, you can't really focus on it, what has happened in the past, whether it's a year ago or like this morning, like, it's happened, you can't really change it. And I guess just laughing about being in a helicopter over the harbour bridge when a traumatic experience has happened. It's just like, I guess maybe trying to just keep that positive attitude alive and like don't lose it through trauma.
Yeah.
And I've always had that throughout, like when I was in hospital and rehab, I always try and found the positive side of everything. I don't know, like training, and then just little things. You just got to kind of keep pushing and keep that positive mindset. Otherwise, you're going to go down a pretty dark hole, I feel.
For sure. That's such a beautiful message for people listening and watching on. And I can speak to the power that appreciation hasn't, in my own life, in my own journey. And I can see that within you too. And, before we jump behind the mics, we were just having a chat over a coffee here. And you mentioned that you found yourself wanting to be that strength for your people through this situation, which speaks so much to the kind of human that you are, right? That in your own adversity, you're so selflessly worried about everyone else.
Yeah.
But in that moment when you wake up in ICU and you look around the room and you see family and you see the people you love, you said that you weren't exactly told what your injuries were,
Yeah.
but you knew. Do you think that's
Yeah.
the knowing of looking on their faces and seeing the severity of, the fear within them?
Yeah, I think like when you wake up or come to after 3 days of kind of no memory, and then you can, like, when you look at someone, you just see their distraught or their sadness, and it's like, obviously I just went through the last 3 days and I like deeply knew what had happened, but I couldn't really put two and two together. I couldn't really put it in like a story in my head. I just kind of put everything together.
Yeah.
So then, seeing my whole family and friends like not as happy as they were 3 or 4 days ago, I was like, no, we want to get back to where everyone was then, because that was like, life was good, life was happy, and everyone was like not sad. So I think I don't know where it came from, but I just had to push through what I was going through, and it wasn't a facade of happiness, because I was genuinely like, okay, cool, this is not cool, but okay, this has happened, this is shit, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to be sad and depressed about it, because that's not going to help anyone get through it. So if I can get through this fast or quicker than the quickest, then family and friends, they'll be happy, and then everything else should go back to normal, more or less.
For sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know where they came from, but I think I've always put others before me, no matter what, whether it's going to affect me in more ways than one, or I've always kind of thought I'll put myself last to make someone else happy or do something for someone else, even if it puts me out of the way. So I think maybe that just came out more when I had my accident, and I saw everyone sad, and I just wanted to really just push through and just get back to being like a happy big family.
You spoke about emotional moments there with family, and particularly that emotional moment with Dad.
Yeah.
And our challenges have been very different, but I see a lot of parallels in our journeys, our quest up until this point, where for me, my family is such a support system.
Yeah.
They're the most incredible human beings, and I feel so lucky, and in my own bias I say they're the best in the world. I'm sure you think the same of yours.
Yeah.
Even just the other night, I went for dinner with my mum and my partner Soph, and we're just having dinner at Mum's house and talking about parenthood, right? We're talking about the first few years of my mum's journey as a mum, and she was talking about Mother's Day having this beauty because she gets to celebrate being the mum of 2 kids she loves.
Yeah.
But she said it also comes with a heaviness and a sense of emotion because it was on Mother's Day, or just the day before, that she found out I had CF.
Yeah.
And she talked about the first few years of parenthood for her and my dad, and how much stress that held, not having any positive examples really to look to, having a whole bunch of negativity and sadness and tragedy pushed at them from a media perspective of people who were unwell with CF, from people who had had terrible experiences with it, people had heard this terrible news that this kid passed really young, or that, all the signs pointing towards their own child not making it out of his teens.
Yeah.
And Mum said it took so much strength, and I've spoken to my dad about this at depth before too, the strength it took for them as parents to be super positive throughout that time. I come home, and it had been a particularly emotional day for me, as I was weighing on some of my own challenges from a financial standpoint to keep the pod running, to keep speaking on stage, and working towards a dream that I hold close to my heart of being a storyteller. And after that conversation, it set me off. I got home, I was sitting on this table with Soph, and I had a real bloody cry, because I said, sometimes I think about my own sacrifices, to leave work, to leave a secure income, a career that was on the up, to sell a home, to sacrifice everything to be able to do what I do now,
Yeah.
and you know, to pursue my purpose and to do it to inspire and uplift others. But sometimes I forget about the sacrifice that they've made for me to be here, for me to even have the opportunity to do this. And I said,
Yeah.
because of that, I can never give up on this.
Yeah.
You know, as long as it sits deep within my core as my purpose and I recognise that, I can never give up on this because of not only my hard work, but so many years of theirs. And I wonder how that story sits with you. You know, sitting there and having those emotional moments with Dad about, you know, the challenges that you're now going to face for the rest of your life and the strength of those people around you to help you get through. You know, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, family and friends are everything. Like, they support you no matter what decision you take, whether it's not really the right one or you're going down the wrong path. Like, they will pull you up and give you the hard truth when you need to hear it, but they're also going to back you in any decision you make, really. So yeah, it's having like my parents during the time of my accident were like there at any point. They were there if I had any phone calls, so they would lived an hour and a half away, and if I needed them, they'd come straight up. And it was just like, we were a close family before, but I think it really brought us just closer, because you just kind of, you find things or you learn things that you don't really know too much about your family, like deeper core like goals. And it's just, I've learned a lot about my mum and my dad and like their values and how they, I guess, value like the way they brought us up as kids. Like, it's just distilled in us. And yeah, having them, like, they're a huge part of my life now, because like I live with them, and it's a great relationship that we have. Like, I'm very open with them. They know so much about my life, and like, I don't really hold back with them, because it's like there's really not much more that they can find out.
Sure.
So yeah, it's like having that. It's a special relationship I have with them, and it's open, and it just feels like secure. And I hope everyone has that with family, friends, and especially their parents if they can. But yeah, if not, even a partner, just try and find that with someone, because being, like we spoke before, having that with Nat and Soph, how vulnerable and comfortable we feel around them, it's special. And I don't think everyone gets that feeling in their life. Like, they just kind of settle, and when you find that feeling that it just feels so right, it's just like life before that just kind of doesn't feel like it's like, you didn't really know what you were missing out on until you find that feeling. And then it's like, you don't want to lose it, because it's just so like pure.
It's beautiful, man.
It is, yeah.
It's beautiful. And can you remember, I'm not sure how great your memory would be around those days as you wake up and you start to process what's about to unfold. That conversation with your dad, can you remember any words that he shared with you at the time? Any words that you've held on to?
I'm trying to think. I think the one night when, I don't know where everyone else was, but it was me and him, and it was probably 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and I just broke down, and I was like, why me? And he was crying as well, and I'm like, he just mentioned, like, no one's going to put you in a situation that you're not going to be able to get through, or you're not strong enough to get through. And not like hearing that from him, saying that like you're stronger than what you think you are. And I think we all have that inner strength that we really don't know is there until we're put in a really tough situation, that the only way to get out is fight and really find that fire in you. And I love those situations, because you really figure out who you are. And I think in the last, I guess the last 9-10 years, I've become just a more open and definitely vulnerable person, and I love that because you have all the feels of that, and being open with your emotions and ups and downs and crying when you want to cry and all that. It's just like, that's what life is about. You get to, we're a soul on this earth for a really short period of time, and we want to experience every emotion we can, because that's living, and that's the best part of life, whether it's sad or really happy. You kind of feel fulfilled knowing that you can be really sad one day and then ecstatically happy and overjoyed the next. And it's like, I think having those moments in life, you really know you're like living and you're alive, and it's really, I think, really special.
Man, there's such beautiful words, and I couldn't agree with you more. There's a quote that sits with me consistently that I love, and it's, sometimes we feel like we've been buried, but we've actually been planted.
Yeah.
And
I love that one.
For me, the fertilizer that allows you to grow from beneath the surface is that vulnerability, that acceptance, that whatever you're facing and whatever your reality is, it is yours.
Yeah.
You have to own it. You have to firstly accept it and become comfortable with it before you can flourish in it.
Yeah.
And
100%.
And for me, there's been such a positive improvement in the quality of my life once I understood that vulnerability would open up so much.
Yeah.
Like whether that's with Soph, whether that's with my family, and having those hard conversations and being honest with how you feel.
Yeah.
You know, like I said to you before this, when I asked you about your headspace around everything that you face and all the challenges you have, and you said, you know, it's fucking challenging at times.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
I know that I'm here. And you know that you're here for a reason. And for me, that's the real side, the fact that it's fucking challenging at times. The fact that there are going to be times you cry because you just know it would be easier if you weren't in a chair.
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
And it's scary.
For sure.
But like, that's what makes us who we are, and we grow through that. And you
Definitely.
become so much stronger on the other side of that.
So talk to me about the acceptance. How long did it take for you to fully get comfortable with the fact that, you know, you needed to now own this?
I think, like, I remember 5 years after my accident, it was 2018,
Yeah.
the year after the year of my first Paralympics, and like everything was great. I was basically on a high from when I got out of hospital to the 2018 Paralympics, and I just kind of picked up skiing and just did that and never really slowed down. In 2018, I'm in Perisher training skiing again, and then I think it was September, something just caught up to me, and I was like, shit, I feel ruined, and just like, I don't want to be in a chair anymore. I don't want to, like, it's too hard. Like, what has happened? Like, I don't think I really gave myself early on like enough time to grieve and kind of accept what had happened and what changes that had happened in my life. I just kind of picked up skiing, and that to me was like my safe place in rehab, and it kind of took away from my disability. But in 2018, I just got a realization that, oh shit, this is like for real, and it's going to be like obviously a long life thing. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I was in a bad headspace or like a down for too long, but maybe a good few weeks. And I just kind of didn't really have any drive or like zest for life, and I was just kind of coasting through at this point, and I didn't like, I was fine with it all, but it was just like trying to really find that drive again, and pick up training again, and just try and find something that, like a new why maybe, because I'd just done 4 years, done a Paralympics, and that was like my goal in hospital.
Yeah.
And then that high had all come down, and I didn't really know what else I was going to do, like another Paralympics or I don't know really. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously days now where I'm like, nah, stuff this. This is just, I don't want, like, I want to be here, but I just want a different situation.
Yeah.
But then I will jump on my bike, do something outside, go for a swim or a ride, or go to the gym, get the blood flowing, get your endorphin levels up, get some sun in. Then you come back and you're like, yeah, okay, life's good. Like, I'm still able to do what I will, like, be physical and be out there without, like, really too much effort, or like, I have full independence, and that to me is everything. I need that, like, independence in my life, because it's not having that, you just feel like crippled, and like, I don't think I'd have much drive or go if I didn't have, like, my own independence.
Yeah. I think that's powerful, and when you feel like you're in control of at least what you do, we're not always in control of the outcomes, but if you're in control of what action you can take, that's liberating in itself. That frees you up.
100%.
You know, you spoke there about that grief and not giving yourself a chance to grieve. This is probably not the best example of any sort of psychological advice, but I'm watching a TV show at the moment, right? It's called Shrinking. And have you ever watched Ted Lasso?
Nah. I know what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never watched it yet.
So it's written by the same writers, I believe. And the show's got Marshall from How I Met Your Mother, Jason Segel, I think his name is. He's the lead actor, and he's a shrink who loses his wife. And sort of goes through him picking up the pieces, his daughter picking up the pieces. You know, she's in her late teens of life after loss and, you know, life in grief. And one of the things they talk about in the show is, like, granting yourself in that heavy grief period 15 minutes a day just to cry to some sad music. But then after that 15 minutes, it's your job to pick up the pieces and move forward as positively as you can. And I really liked that when I heard it in the show, and I think often in life we don't give ourselves the chance to feel what we need to feel.
No. Especially as men too.
Especially as men. I couldn't put an exclamation mark next to that enough, because we feel as though we have to be strong all the time. But strength comes through vulnerability, as we said, and you need to first allow yourself to feel what you need to feel before you can free yourself of it.
100%.
And it's almost like when you push that below the surface, it's like trying to push a fucking ball below the surface of the pool, right? It just wants to fucking come up, and it will find a way.
100%.
And if you push it down too far, it'll fucking explode up through the surface, and all of a sudden, it's now heavier than it needed to be.
Exactly.
And I think saying what you said there for so many people will really hit home, because whether you're facing similar challenges to you, whether someone's come through a spinal cord injury, whether someone's living with CF, whether someone's under heavy financial stress at home, or has lost a loved one, or, you know, is in the middle of a breakup, that pain, that weight feels heavy regardless, and everyone's situation and circumstances are different, and you can't compare it. You just need to feel what you need to feel. You
need to feel it to the full extent.
And then you need to find your why to move forward.
And you'll come out 100 times stronger than when you went in there, even though it probably feels like your lowest point. But being that vulnerable, being that open, and feeling that is going to feel so much better, and like a weight off your shoulders afterwards, really. And I don't think we really give ourselves enough time to open up and be vulnerable and be, like, really just raw.
So couldn't agree with you more. You spoke about refinding, you know, feeling like that why, that meaning, the goal you'd set for yourself, you know, coming out of hospital to be a Paralympian. Spoke about the high of achieving that and then feeling that low. And I think that's something that's really common for a lot of us in life. We get to something that we've been working towards, and we need to pick up the pieces and realise that it's time to go again. It's time to find what that next why is, what that purpose looks like now.
Yeah.
For you, what was the rediscovery of purpose? And I'll quickly put a story in here. I heard Lewis Hamilton, F1 driver, on a podcast recently, and he spoke about, sort of getting to his 5th or 6th championship, and it started to feel empty.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is what I've always wanted, right? This is what I've worked towards my whole life, is to be, the greatest F1 driver of all time. But he realised that after time, he needed to find new why, new purpose, and for him that was setting up his foundation. And and so thankfully he has now, because he spoke about the success that isn't exactly there right now. They're having a tougher couple of years at Mercedes, and having that why, that purpose, that was more connected to the human being than the human doing. Like not connected to what he does as an athlete, but who he is as a human. At the core, has been really powerful for him. And I guess I'll throw you that same question. At the core is, we look at Sam Tait, the human being, not Sam Tait, the athlete, or the adrenaline junkie, but the guy who has to lie in bed at night, put his head on his pillow, and feel really good about the life he's living. What does that why and purpose look and feel like to you at the moment?
It's changed over the last 3-4 years. I think after 2018, when I had that really low, I had to really pick myself up and push towards another 4 years of training for Beijing Paralympics. And once I kind of got that rolling, it was sweet, and I was fully committed. And last year, coming out of China and kind of again that high that you've been working on for the last 4 years, and then coming back home, and I had a pretty bad campaign at Beijing. I felt at the peak of my game, like I was so there. I felt mentally and physically ready. Not the best lead up. Had 5 weeks off before the Paralympics because I had bad crash, and I want to say fractured ribs, but we'll never know. Really, it was sore. But coming to China, I was like, I'm like so ready, and the hill was gnarly. It was pretty. I don't know if you watched the Olympics or Paralympics, and the speed hill was pretty gnarly. And then had a crash in two of my favourite events, and I was just like, shit, I fucked it. And then coming home from that, I was just like, I'm like, as I spoke to you before, I'm just like feeling mentally cooked, and just want to take some time off and kind of refine my why and purpose. And I kind of went straight back into training, and like I got home, let's just say Monday, and I was back in the gym Tuesday, because I was like, I don't really know what else to do, because it's been ingrained in me in the last like 8-9 years just to kind of train. And that was good for 2 weeks, but then I crashed hard for 2 weeks after that, and I woke up and I was like, I'm not motivated at all. Like, this is just like, I would kind of go to the gym, but I was like, no, this is just like, I'm just done. So I took some time off, which was needed, and just kind of did stuff that I wanted to do instead of like following the training schedule. I was just like out for a ride, out in the sun, just went up to Byron and see a few mates, and just kind of doing stuff that I mentally knew I kind of needed. And then, like, I know I need a year of skiing, and I'm trying to work that into it, but my new purpose and why is I'm thinking about after skiing, when I retire, and what I'm going to do after that. And I'm opening up a business in Jinnabine, which is a recovery centre.
Exciting.
And that's like, I literally go to sleep and wake up thinking about it.
That's mad.
So excited. Stressful, a lot of work, but like, I just know, like, once I get something concrete in the ground, like, or pipes are in there or anything, it's just going to be like go time. And I'm just like to me that is more motivating than skiing right now, because I'm just so excited to build something that I can call mine, or that I say I did this by myself, and like, yeah, there'll be help from people with, I don't know, I've never set up a business before. I have no idea what I'm doing. But it's so rewarding just seeing like little things, like setting up your company and just seeing that like come out in the flesh, and ordering like equipment and paying for quotes and stuff. It's just like, okay, it still feels a dream, but like it's almost there that I'm like, okay, this is real. And that to me right now is more motivating and my purpose, and kind of why I'm pushing harder in my life, because I just like, that's to me is everything right now, and I want that to succeed so badly. I'm so scared that it won't, but I think like I'm putting so much time and like energy into it that I just can't see it not working really.
And I think that bit of fear is healthy, right? Because it, like you said, it makes you put that work in.
Yeah, you'll put the work in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you spoke about something there that I find really interesting, and it's something that has become really present for me listening to a guy named Ben Crow, mindset coach for, I think he's worked with Dylan Alcott a little bit, works with Ash Barty, bunch of top tier athletes, Dusty Martin.
Yep.
And I heard Ben Crow talk about this idea of the separation between the human being and the human doing, which I touched on there just a moment ago, and how as humans we often put all of our self-worth in the human doing bucket, which is, you know, Sam Tait the athlete, or Brad Driver the podcaster, you know, or the runner, or, you know, the things that we do. And when we fall a little short of goals, or the things that make us quote unquote successful in that space, our self-worth falls short with it.
Yeah.
And coming back to that notion that the self-worth comes from the human doing, you know, living a value-driven life, living according to the kind of human being that you want to be. And, you know, those selfless things we can do for ourselves and control that then make us selfless human doings.
Yeah.
Like when you come back to Sam Tait, the human being at the core, what are the coping mechanisms or the things that you do for you that outside of your sport, outside of, you know, that pursuit of success in whatever field or space you're in, you know, really connect with your values and who you are at the core?
Yeah. Oh, I think for me, it's like going out in public and just kind of giving off that like positive energy, and not really, like, I don't really do too many things for myself. Like I train, but that's like, obviously I want to train, but that's for skiing, and I don't know, I like to give back a lot, because it's a really selfless, and you just feel good giving back, like whether you compliment someone or make, like, just smile at someone randomly, and you just kind of see their face light up, and it's like, it's just little things like that where I like to just kind of be that person where someone can like look at and kind of feel good, or not get like negative energy from.
There's power in that, right?
Yeah, like it's just fulfilling. To me, it's fulfilling, because I hate negative energy, and I try not to have any in me. And I was just talking to Nat about this last night, and she's like, when I am with someone, I want to see all their raw emotions, like anger, sadness, happiness. And I was like, yeah, you'll probably see all that, but anger, probably not, because like I can't remember when I've been angry, or like, it's weird. I don't like to give out that like negative energy, because it doesn't sit right with me, and I don't want that like negative emotion like manifesting in me. So I just like, I've never really had that emotion where I'm like really angry at someone, or just doesn't, like, I try and see both sides of the story, or like the other side, or like, I'm like, yeah, cool, that's like, that happened. I'm not like happy about it, but it is what it is. You can't change it, and like, I'll move on.
Well, I think it's that same attitude that's allowed you to be so positive about your own adversity, right? That lens of gratitude and appreciation in which you view life through.
Yeah.
And, you know, ultimately it makes anger harder. I would say I'm very similar to that, but sometimes I get a little bit snappy. But it's usually just when I'm a little bit tired or not feeling myself.
Yeah. I understand that. Like, tired or hungry, or you just want like that snack. But yeah, I just feel like anger is just a waste of emotion. Yeah, sometimes you need to feel it, but I don't understand how people can get really angry and go off at someone and feel like comfortable with that.
I think it's the important thing is learning how to use anger, pain, those more negatively associated emotions with pushing your own motivation. Yeah. You know, how do you use them positively? How do you turn a negative into a positive? Yeah. And not use it to negatively impact other people? Yeah. And that's where I think those emotions go so wrong for so many people, which comes back to, for a lot of people, that anger, negativity comes back to then potentially, if not used positively, narcissistic traits. Yeah. Which only negatively affects the people around them, and it becomes just a pool of negativity. Yeah. So, and, you know, I can see so much positivity in you, so I understand that you want to shine that light. You know, talk to me about just one thing you said there, which struck a chord, because we spoke about it before. You know, I said to you when we sat down today and started having a coffee, to me, the world of disability and, you know, the injury that you've gone through, there's so much that's taboo to talk about. Yeah. And there's so much that feels like it's often brushed over because nobody really wants to ask the question the right way. And you shared with me a couple of situations that could potentially make someone in your position angry, but you choose to look at it as positively as you can, and to understand where they're coming from and the confusion in which they ask that question from. Talk to me about what's politically correct, and because I think this would be really interesting for everyone who's tuning in right now to hear. Yeah. There's so much I don't know, like, how do we address and label these injuries? How do we ask the questions that are often hard to ask? And what's your experience with learning that?
I mean, I've just learned from over the last few years, well, my whole being in a chair, you kind of just get chucked in the deep end. No one really tells you what's right and what's wrong. You kind of, I think for everyone who has a disability, you have to judge their character and who they are, I guess, on the fly when you're talking, like asking questions. Like, there'll be questions I get asked at the pub if I'm out, or like, can you have sex, or what's to go with this, or anything. And at the start, I kind of was like, that's a weird, very personal question to ask, but now I'm like, whatever, like, it doesn't really bother me, but I feel like other people it might. Like, I'm an open book within reason, but I think just not like tiptoeing around the disability, like not saying like it in like black and white, or you're in a chair or you have a disability, whatever, but just treating someone as you would anyone else, really, and like looking at the person with a disability like in the eyes, and not talking to their friend about you next to him. Yeah. Just treating them like human. Just we're all human. And everyone in the world has like unforeseen like demons or anything. It's just because I'm in a chair, you can see it and it's noticeable, and probably more than one in, I don't know, I'm just making this up, but I reckon half the people we meet in our lives would have something going on in their lives that no one would know about. And
bloody oath.
I try and treat everyone I meet, no matter what they look like or who they are, that you're like good and a happy human until proven otherwise, or until you show me you're not.
For sure.
And I like to look on I like to give like everyone the benefit of the doubt, unless you break my trust or you betray me or something, because you really don't know what anyone's going through in like everyday situations.
I think what you're touching on here is just this human desire to be felt, heard, connected.
Yeah.
To feel like you're in the same boat as everyone else with the same opportunity, and we all want to feel respected. I think that's one of the hardest things.
100%.
We don't. Potentially, some human beings want to be admired or to be looked at in high regard, but I think, speaking for most people, if I can, you just want to feel like you are getting the respect you deserve as a human being.
Yeah.
Like, that's a genuine human right to deserve respect and to be looked at and thought of as everyone else is.
Yeah.
And it's so weird and so foreign that, and I think, as you said, if you give people the benefit of the doubt, I think that it comes from a place of deep desire to want to be politically correct or want to be right. But we live in such a world right now where, especially with social media, this cancel culture, that everyone feels like everything they say, and in some regards it has to be. You know, if you're coming from a place with intent to hurt, then, you know, you deserve to be responsible and held accountable for your actions.
Yeah.
But if you're coming from a good place, and like you said, being able to see that intent and where it comes from, most of the time people are going to be understanding.
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah.
And I've never really experienced that otherwise, really. Like, if you come across as respectful and just a genuine human, then you're going to get that back. And I think, just putting that out to the world, and you're gonna feel that energy back.
For sure. Without giving away your age, because you do look quite good for your age. Coming up to 32, actually the day before my birthday.
Yeah.
So April baby's here.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges you foresee for yourself that maybe you haven't fully come to terms with, or have to start coming to terms with and getting prepared for in now your 30s and, you know, for life to come? It is such a transition point for everyone.
It is. I think my 30s are going to be better than my 20s.
I love that.
I just feel like 30s, you can, like, the 20s are kind of figuring out what you want to do in your life and where you want to go and building like that life and that career. In 30s, you kind of have it, well, most of us have it kind of sort of, you know what you want to do, and then it's just kind of, you're just living off the back of that. I don't know. I want to have a family.
Yeah.
And that's with skiing over the next 4 or 3 years till 2026. It's a little, like, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to travel and work and then start a family. And it's a little scary because I've never really, like, I've always seen myself as, like, not alone, but, like, just coasting through life by myself, no family, no kids. And then met Nat, and my mindset just kind of changed. I don't know where it came from. It just makes me feel, I don't know, comfortable and wanting that family. And I'm just trying to, it's scary to think that, well, not scary, but I'm just really kind of trying to see how that's gonna, or when that's gonna fit into skiing. And I'm just,
bro, I feel that so deeply. Like, I've had, you know, with Soph, these conversations start to come to fruition because you want to plan your future, right? You
have to know what's going to happen,
what it looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
To a degree.
Yeah.
And for me, before meeting Soph, as I mentioned to you earlier when we were chatting over coffee, she's the first person I've ever truly connected with and felt super comfortable with.
Yeah.
So life with her felt more serious and like there was more opportunity, more hope for the things to come in the future.
Yeah.
And I always thought that I struggled to find someone that I truly connected with on a value and moral level that I wanted to create a life with.
Yeah.
And so I often thought that I was just going to be the uncle that rocked up and, you know, splashed some cash at the nephews and nieces, and, you know, and everyone's like, Uncle Brad's here, and you know, he's the fun uncle who does the podcast and all that stuff.
It's exactly how I felt.
Yeah, you know, like Uncle Sam's here from another, you know, bloody winter in Beijing, and, you know, he's talking about these medals and this success. But then when it's your own kids, or the thought of, and you have to start planning for that, comes with challenges. And for me, there's heaps of stuff from a CF standpoint that makes it even potentially a little trickier that we have to consider. And, you know, there's those challenges that come in it. For me, it's like it's become a very selfless view that I have on the next 5 to 10 years of my life and what that looks like. And, you know, I love it with my parents now. They're at an age where I still feel like very connected to them. I almost feel like they've gone from, and they're always my parents, they're always dad and mum, but they've transitioned from parents to mates almost.
I feel that. Yeah.
Where you kind of go to them for the things that you go to your friends for, right? Like connection, and it's, you know, I don't need you to look after me now. Yeah. But I want to be able to talk to you about this stuff. And
that's so true.
It's so true. It's that transition. And
it's a beautiful time.
It is a really enjoyable time. And I look to them as incredible examples for the kind of parent that I want to be. Yeah. And I want to have that with my kids in 26 years' time, you know?
100%. Yeah. It's like I've respected and really loved my parents' relationship. They have a great relationship, and only now that I've, like, with Nat, do I really, like, look at my parents' relationship and be like, that's how I want my relationship to be like. Like, they've loved each other for maybe 30 plus years now, not probably 34, 35 years, and I don't think you don't see that unconditional love like last for that long, especially in, I think, our generation now. Everyone's just like, oh yeah, what's a few years?
So rare, isn't it?
It's so rare. And I think, like, we've only been with our partners for 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
But it feels like I've been so open and have much more a deeper connection than I have with anyone in my life in the last 4 months with Nat. It just feels right and, like, comfortable. And I'm happy to have those hard conversations about, like, what's your timeline on marriage and kids and where do you want to live in the future, and, like, because you need those. I think you need to be on the same page, or getting on the same page early on. Otherwise, in a few years, if you're not agreeing with something, then I wouldn't say you've wasted it, but it's like it's not gonna work in the long run.
People say to me all the time, "Far out, you've had some really deep and sort of like real future orientated conversations with your partner early." Fucking oath I have. Yeah. Because if I'm trying to create a life with someone, like, if I'm, you know, I always say I'm going to live to 100, right? If I'm meeting a 100-year-old man running to a coffee in the morning, and I look at that and I go, well, if, you know, potentially you're going to live that long, and you're going to live, you know, a huge chunk of life to come. Yeah. If I want to spend the rest of my life with this person, and she wants kids, I don't, or vice versa, and that's a problem in 2 years. Yeah. Then what are we doing?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm so fortunate the person I've fallen in love with has similar and very similar, and I guess tuned desires for the future and what life's going to look like, and we can connect on that and plan for that. Yeah. But you want to get to that early.
You need to have those hard conversations, and that just makes your relationship stronger.
Definitely.
And, like, open, you can have a conversation about anything, and you know it's gonna, like, where you're going, and, like, there's one, like, you can have hard conversations and not agree, but you're gonna be stronger and come out of it. Your relationship's gonna be stronger, and the connection between you, both of you, are gonna just be so much better for the future, even if you don't agree with it. I think you need to have hard conversations with your partner early on, because, like, it just makes it more of a deeper connection.
Definitely. Sounds like we just started a love coaching business.
Podcast.
Find the link in the
podcast.
bio. Talk to me about this couple months to come, training, things that you're excited for, obviously the business. Is there anywhere that people can start to link up with that and find that? Is there a planned date to open?
I want to open this year. At the moment, I'm just working on branding. I've got no links or anything at the moment, or any website. I'm just kind of need to get my architectural plans finished for that, so then I can start really getting a colour palette and figuring out the way we're going to go with that. But it's basically working on that full time, training for this team triathlon that we're doing in April, which I'm so excited about, and I just want to beat Nat. It's all I care.
A bit of healthy competition.
And then head to Perisher for work again, and Mum and Dad want to retire, so they've got a ski lodge that me and my sister will take over in the next 2-3 years. So, and then train for 2026 Winter Paralympics. It's a huge next 3.5 years.
Packed schedule,
but I think it's gonna I'm gonna get more done than I would have the last probably 8 years, because I'm just so busy, and when you want to get something done, give it to a busy person, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, it's going to be. I'm looking forward to it. It's probably going to be some sleepless nights, but
yeah,
I just want to build that really reliable or passive income for the future, and be able to be like, hey, hon, we're going for a road trip for 3 weeks. Let's go. And I don't want to live just a settled, flat life. I want to always be on new adventures, and if we want to go somewhere, book a holiday in a week and just go travel, whatever, have kids.
I love that.
Yeah,
so exciting, brother.
It is exciting. Terrifying.
Yeah, but exciting.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be exciting.
I want to leave off with one last question, a question that I find I really ask a lot of my guests who I feel inspired by. And I love that there's so many parallels between our thoughts and experiences and where we're at in our lives. And I'd be really interested to hear if you could share one message with the audience and encourage them to act on that. What would it be?
I think there's probably a few, but
give us a couple then.
I think just you'll probably feel this one deeply, just finding someone you can just be completely open with and vulnerable with. To me, that's having that deep connection and that vulnerability with Nat is changed my mindset and my views on a lot of things. I never thought that I would have that in my life. I thought, the fun uncle, here he comes, solo or single. But I'm living a much more fulfilled, and I'm getting so much more enjoyment out of my life with Nat, and we have the same goals around fitness, and she pushes me to get in the pool and swim, where I'm so self-conscious about going out in public, and I feel like everyone judges me when I'm out, but that's just in my head. And Nat's pushed me to just being open with her. I don't really care what everyone else thinks. And she it took me a while with her to let my guard down. And only maybe the last month that I've really just turned it off. And we've just become so much more closer and stronger together, that I think finding someone you can really just be yourself with, be weird, be silly with, but also have those really deep connections with, is something that you need, we need as humans in life, because it's why we're on this earth, to find that one person that you can just be yourself with and have, don't hold back and just be you and be open.
You know what?
It's pretty special.
it's so special, and it's something you said there about that insecurity that come from within.
Yeah.
That is now diminished with that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I feel that on so many levels. So many insecurities about the way that I look, the way that I thought people thought I looked, all these things that are on the front of your brain and only stop you from enjoying life fully.
Exactly.
There is such a power in when you feel like you can be vulnerable and yourself 100%.
Yeah.
Like when you can lay it all out there and say, this is me, this is who I am at the core, I'm not hiding anything. And that's not only accepted by someone, but celebrated and loved.
Yeah. Especially loved. It's...
You walk out there in the world and you feel like a different human being.
100%. Yeah.
And that's such a strength. And, you know, I hope, and I wish I could give answers to people to feel that within themselves. But if you can find a person, like you said, it just elevates it, and it's such a beautiful experience.
Yeah, it is, and I never thought that I would find that, honestly. And it's to have it and to know how good it feels. I just hope everyone can feel that, because it's. I think it's one of the reasons why we're on this earth. It's pretty amazing.
Well, if you sign up to the Love Coach program, everyone can. It's brother, it's been such a pleasure to sit here and chat. You've got an incredible story. I love the way that you view life and that lens of appreciation and gratitude in which you see everything that is, you know, a part of your world. And it's been a privilege to not only share your story here, but to connect as mates, and you know, and hopefully we can keep connecting, and you know, I can follow on now.
I appreciate it.
So I'll make sure that everyone listening, watching on, can head to the show description to find your social tags and everything you're doing, and hopefully we can get some people down to Jindy to get in, rip in. So cheers, brother.
Cheers, mate.